Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a really challenging story, looking at a stack of sources detailing the life of Aaron Hernandez. A guy who had this incredible, almost generational athletic talent,
Yeah, truly brilliant on the field. Co-revolutionized the tight end spot in the NFL.
but whose life just went completely off the rails.
Yeah.
Hidden chaos, crime, paranoia. It's a shocking fall.
It really is one of the most baffling and, frankly, tragic stories in modern sports. He hit the big time with the Patriots so fast, but, well, underneath it all was something incredibly broken and dangerous.
So our mission today isn't just to rehash the headlines. We want to really dig into the sources, unpack his whole journey, from this really difficult childhood in Connecticut through his time as a star at Florida.
Which had its own share of red flags.
Right, and then into the NFL, the stardom, and ultimately the murder conviction and everything that followed. And we have to talk about the brain damage discovered after his death. It adds such a complicated layer.
That CTE diagnosis is critical, absolutely. So just for that initial snapshot, we're talking about a standout tight end for the Patriots from 2010 to 2012, arrested and convicted for killing Odin Lloyd in 2013.
But then acquitted of a different, earlier double homicide just days before he died by suicide.
Exactly. And then posthumously, that diagnosis of severe CTE, stage 3 out of 4, which is just unheard of for someone his age. It forces you to look at everything, the trauma, the choices, the physical brain issues, all tangled together.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. Bristol, Connecticut, born in 1989. The sources describe a really unstable home life.
Yeah, unstable feels like an understatement almost. Constant fighting between his parents, Dennis and Terry. They actually divorced and then remarried each other. Plus, serious money problems, bankruptcy filings. It sounds like chaos was just the norm.
Yeah, deep-seated chaos. And it wasn't just shouting matches, right? The relationship with his father, Dennis, that sounds particularly toxic.
Extremely. Dennis, who was of Puerto Rican descent, seems to have been this incredibly powerful, controlling figure. He pushed Aaron and his older brother, DJ, super hard in sports, which, okay, lots of sports parents do that.
But this went way beyond typical pressure.
Oh, absolutely. The sources are clear. It was paired with frequent, really brutal physical abuse, beatings.
And not just for, getting bad grades or messing up in a game.
No. Sometimes it was linked to alcohol, sometimes.
Yeah.
And this is chilling. It was reportedly for no reason at all, just unpredictable violence. Imagine living like that.
It creates this impossible situation for a child, right? Constant fear.
Constant fear, exactly. But also, they apparently revered him, saw him as the strong guy demanding excellence. It's that really damaging mix of fear and the desperate need for approval.
And this wasn't just behind closed doors.
No, there are accounts of it spilling out. A coach remembering a bruise on young Aaron's eye he suspected came from Dennis. Dennis apparently once punched a youth football coach. He tried to project this image of having turned his life around, but the violence was clearly still there, and Aaron soaked it all up.
So if his father was this volatile, central figure, his sudden death must have just shattered Aaron's world.
That seems to be the consensus. It was January 2006. Aaron was only 16. Dennis went in for routine hernia surgery and died from complications. Completely unexpected. Traumatic.
No time to process, no closure.
Right, and his mother said he was just devastated, heavily affected, and almost immediately he started rebelling against anyone in charge. Teachers, coaches, people close to him said he just never got over losing the one person he both feared and desperately wanted to please.
But the fallout from the death didn't stop there. There were family secrets that came out right after, weren't there?
Yeah, this is where any remaining sense of stability just implodes. The hidden personal struggles section in the sources is, well, it's rough. Shortly after Dennis died, the family apparently found out that Aaron's mother, Terry, had been having a long-term affair.
And not just any affair.
No, with the husband of Aaron's cousin, Tanya Singleton. For a grieving, likely traumatized teenager who'd already endured years of abuse, finding out about his mother's betrayal with a family member, the sources say it enraged him, destroyed any trust he had left in her.
And that's when he cut ties with his mom. Moved out.
Immediately. Moved in with that same cousin, Tanya Singleton. And the sources suggest this break, this deep estrangement, is right around the time he started getting involved in more serious criminal stuff. The family structure was just gone, replaced by anger.
And beneath all that, there's the even earlier trauma.
The sexual abuse? Yeah, this is incredibly disturbing. According to later testimony from his brother, DJ, and claims from his legal team, Aaron was sexually molested as a child. Started when he was about 6 by an older teenage boy at his babysitter's place, and it apparently went on for years.
That's just layer upon layer of trauma.
It's immense. And his lawyers later argued that Hernandez himself believed this abuse was what caused him to question his sexuality, maybe even become gay, something he felt he had to hide, violently at times, because of the hyper-masculine world of sports he lived in.
You combine that hidden struggle, the abuse, the domestic violence, the financial stress. It's hard to fathom how a kid navigates that.
You can hear the bitterness later, right? There's that jailhouse call where he rips into his mother, accuses her of not getting him meds for his ADHD, which he clearly struggled with.
Yeah, and says that absolutely brutal line about her dying without knowing her own son. Just pure alienation.
Total abandonment in his mind.
Yep.
Failed by the people meant to protect him.
And yet, outwardly, on the football field at Bristol Central High, he was a superstar. Completely dominant.
Oh, the talent was undeniable. Off the charts. Starred in football, basketball, track, set state records in football for receiving yards, over 1,800 yards, and 24 touchdowns his senior year. Gatorade Player of the Year. He was the real deal, athletically. And by all accounts, worked incredibly hard on the field.
But that work ethic didn't translate off the field. The contrast is jarring.
Totally jarring. While he's grinding in practice, his social life, according to sources, involved smoking large quantities of marijuana. We're talking before school, before practice, even before games, plus a sizable amount of drinking. It wasn't just weekend partying, it sounds chronic. Probably self-medicating, trying to numb everything.
And then there's that specific incident, the physical one, that feels like foreshadowing.
Right at the end of this section, 2006, high school game. Takes a massive blindside hit. Knocked out cold. Had to be taken off the field in an ambulance. That's a documented, significant head trauma. A major concussion, right there at age 16 or 17. A physical clue pointing towards the CTE diagnosis years later.
So he takes all this baggage, the trauma, the emerging behavioral issues, the head injury, and heads off to play big-time college football, University of Florida.
Yeah, and that move itself was kind of controversial. He'd initially committed to UConn, close to home.
Right, but then Urban Meyer and the powerhouse Florida Gators came calling.
Exactly. Meyer apparently really went after him, even convinced Hernandez's high school principal to let him graduate a whole semester early. So he enrolled at Florida in January, just after turning 17.
Which sounds like a fast track to success, but maybe wasn't the best thing for him personally.
Probably not. The Boston Globe did a piece later looking back at this, and they basically said he arrived in Gainesville completely unprepared, not academically prepared or emotionally grounded for college life.
He was still basically a kid, thrust into this intense environment without the maturity or support system.
Absolutely. And the proof is kind of there. He had to take remedial classes at a local community college just to keep up initially. Even later, as an upperclassman, he struggled academically. Apparently got a D in a class on poverty. It seems like the university saw the incredible athlete and maybe overlooked the struggling young man.
Prioritizing the talent over the person.
It looks that way, and the off-field trouble started almost right away, validated those concerns about emotional grounding.
Yeah, that Gainesville bar fight in April 2007, he wasn't even 18 yet.
Nope. Underage drinking, refuses to pay his bill, manager kicks him out, and Hernandez just cold cocks him. Sucker punch. Ruptured the guy's eardrum. That's serious assault. Police recommended felony battery charges.
But nothing really came of it.
Well, it got settled out of court, deferred prosecution, and a key factor, reportedly, was that Tim Tebow's superstar teammate, face of the program, stepped in and vouched for Hernandez. Helped smooth things over.
Wow. So the system kind of protected him? Sent a message, maybe?
A dangerous message, yeah. Basically. Your talent can get you out of serious trouble. Consequences don't necessarily apply if you're valuable enough on the field.
And the violence didn't stop there. Just a few months later, September 2007, that double shooting incident.
Yeah, this one's really disturbing. 2 guys shot in their car after leaving a nightclub. Witnesses gave descriptions, and one witness actually picked Hernandez out of a police lineup. Mentioned his tattoos.
What happened with that investigation?
When the police eventually talked to the players involved, Hernandez did what became a pattern. He lawyered up immediately, invoked his right to counsel, refused to talk. No charges were ever filed in that case, though Massachusetts authorities looked into it again years later during the Lloyd investigation.
Even if he wasn't the shooter, as a later detective apparently concluded, just being there, being identified in a lineup, lawyering up, it suggests he was already running in some rough circles.
Definitely. Multiple violent incidents in his first year, a clear pattern emerging, and yet, on the football field, he was becoming a legend.
Unbelievable talent. Junior year, 2009, He wins the John Mackey Award as the nation's best tight end, first-team All-American, helped win a national championship the year before. His stats were insane: 111 catches, nearly 1,400 yards over his career there.
It's the core contradiction, isn't it? How do you reconcile that elite athletic performance with this spiraling personal life, the violence, the run-ins with the law?
And the answer, or a big part of it, came from his own mouth later. He admitted he was high.
Every time he took the field. That quote is staggering.
Yeah.
High on drugs while playing at the highest level of college football.
It says so much about the system, too. Urban Meyer apparently knew about the chronic marijuana use, wanted him off the team.
Yeah, it was reportedly that bad. But again, Tebow apparently appealed to Meyer, asking for another chance for Hernandez. Bought him a little more time.
But not indefinitely.
No. Eventually, Meyer had enough. The sources say Meyer told Hernandez he wouldn't be welcome back for his senior season. Basically forced his hand, pushed him into the 2010 NFL draft. Florida decided the liability was too great. They essentially passed the problem along to the pros.
Okay, so he enters the NFL draft, all-American talent, Mackey Award winner, but also this huge cloud hanging over him. Failed drug tests, the bar fight, the shooting incident, character concerns. How did NFL teams react?
Well, the talent was obvious, but the red flags were just too big for many teams. He was projected maybe second round based purely on skill.
But he fell much further.
Oh yeah, plummeted. All the way to the fourth round, pick 113, before the New England Patriots took him.
And that wasn't just random chance. Teams actively took him off their board.
Absolutely. Sources mention the Colts, Bengals, Dolphins specifically removing him entirely. They did their homework, the character concerns were serious, and famously he scored the lowest possible score on social maturity in the pre-draft psychological evils.
Lowest possible, what does that even mean?
It basically means the assessment was he was fundamentally incapable of handling adult responsibilities, the pressures of being a pro athlete off the field, just not mature enough.
But the Patriots, known for taking risks, they grabbed him.
They did, but even they were cautious. The contract reflected the risk. Tiny signing bonus for a fourth rounder, like $200,000, when it should have been maybe double that.
Wow.
Yeah, they loaded it with incentives instead, basically saying, prove you can stay out of trouble, walk the straight and narrow, then you'll get paid. It was a very clear message.
And for a couple of years, it looked like maybe the gamble would pay off spectacularly. They drafted Rob Gronkowski just a round earlier.
And boom. Instantly, they become this revolutionary tight end duo, unstoppable. They weren't just extra blockers, they were primary weapons, creating mashup nightmares all over the field.
First tight end pair ever to score 5 TDs each in back-to-back seasons.
And that 2011 season was just insane. They broke NFL records for combined yards by tight ends on one team over 2,200 yards, combined receptions, combined touchdowns. Hernandez himself had a career-high 79 catches, got voted a Pro Bowl alternate, played in the Super Bowl in 2012. He reached the absolute peak.
And the Patriots rewarded him big time. August 2012, that huge contract extension.
Massive. 5 years, nearly $40 million, with a $12.5 million signing bonus. The largest signing bonus ever given to an NFL tight end at that point. They committed fully.
But here's the tragedy, right? Just as he gets that ultimate security, the money, the status, his internal world is apparently falling apart completely.
Yeah, the sources describe this deep disconnect. Despite the on-field success, the big contract, he was apparently really unpopular in the locker room, kind of an outcast, few real friends. Even Brady reportedly found him a lot to handle. He wasn't connecting, he was isolating himself.
That isolation seems to have fed directly into the paranoia and the criminal side, bringing his old buddies from Bristol into his circle.
Yeah, friends with criminal records, including his drug dealer, Alexander Bradley, hired them as quote-unquote assistants.
But their duties weren't exactly fetching coffee.
Not at all. Bradley apparently helped him get illegal guns and, maybe most disturbingly, his job included trying to calm Hernandez down during his fits of rage, which were seemingly getting worse. Hernandez even told his agent he felt he got respect from carrying guns, not from scoring touchdowns. His mindset was shifting.
And the paranoia. The descriptions are wild. A secret second apartment.
Yeah, a place his fiancée, Shauna Jenkins, didn't even know about. Used it to stash drugs and weapons. Apparently he'd just go there and chain smoke marijuana, building this whole secret, dark life.
It wasn't just hiding things, it was active fear. Sleeping with a knife.
Collecting weapons, installing really sophisticated surveillance cameras everywhere in his main house, buying an armored SUV, refusing to ride in cars without super dark-tinted windows. He genuinely believed people were after him, that he was being constantly watched.
And you have to start connecting this to the CTE, right? This extreme paranoia, the rage, the poor impulse control, these are classic symptoms of damage to the parts of the brain, CTE effects.
It's impossible not to see the potential link. The neurological damage was likely inflaming his existing psychological issues, making everything worse, distorting his perception of reality.
Which might explain that bizarre incident in April 2013 when he went to Coach Belichick.
Right. Apparently in a total state of deepening paranoia, convinced his life was in danger, begging for a trade, saying he needed to get to the West Coast for safety.
Belichick turned him down. But the relationship was clearly strained.
It seems Belichick's patience was wearing thin anyway. Sal was likely ending one way or another. The whole situation was becoming untenable. So that period, 2012 into early 2013, that's when things really escalate. From paranoid athlete with anger issues to, well, alleged and then convicted murderer, starting with that 2012 double homicide in Boston, Daniel Deabre and Safiro Furtado.
Killed in their car, July 2012. The alleged motive was just a spilled drink.
Yeah, apparently someone in their group accidentally spilled a drink on Hernandez at the Cure Lounge nightclub earlier that night. The prosecution's theory was that this minor slight triggered an immediate violent retaliation. Gunshots fired into their car later that night.
Police saw Hernandez on club security footage, but didn't connect him right away.
Not initially. He wasn't indicted for those murders until May 2014, almost 2 years later. The case leaned heavily on Alexander Bradley's testimony, his former associate who claimed Hernandez was the shooter.
But Hernandez's defense pushed back hard on that motive.
They did, argued it was implausible, pointed to footage showing Hernandez seemed calm, only stayed in the club briefly, and his lawyer, Jose Baez, hammered the police investigation, calling it extraordinarily sloppy.
What kind of sloppiness?
Things like leaving the victims' bodies in the car while it was towed away, stuff that could potentially compromise the crime scene, contaminate evidence. Baez argued it created reasonable doubt.
And ultimately, the jury agreed.
On the murder charges, yes. He was acquitted of the De Abreu and Furtado murders in April 2017. Big legal win, but kind of overshadowed by everything else. He was convicted on a related gun charge, though. Illegal possession of a handgun. So still confirmed his connection to illegal firearms.
But the violence against Alexander Bradley himself,
Yeah.
that wasn't alleged. That definitely happened.
Oh, yeah. The shooting of Bradley in Miami, February 2013. This incident just screams impulsive violence and paranoia. They were in Florida, ran up a $10,000 bill at a strip club. Hernandez got paranoid, convinced some guys there were undercover cops from Boston tracking him.
And then what?
According to Bradley, later that night, while Bradley was asleep in the car, Hernandez just shot him. Point blank, in the face.
My God. Bradley survived.
Miraculously, yes. But he lost his right eye. Just an unbelievably aggressive, violent act against someone supposedly in his inner circle.
And that led to threats, extortion.
It became this insane back and forth. Over 500 text messages between them, filled with death threats. Bradley apparently tried to extort Hernandez, demanding millions to keep quiet. Hernandez refused. He was later indicted for witness intimidation related to shooting Bradley because Bradley was now a key witness in the 2012 double homicide case.
Was he convicted of the witness intimidation?
No, he was actually acquitted of that specific charge in the 2017 trial as well. But the incident itself, the shooting, it showed how dangerous and unpredictable he'd become. It set the stage for the final act.
The murder of Odin Lloyd, June 2013.
Right. Lloyd was a semi-pro football player, and crucially, he was dating the sister of Hernandez's fiancée, Shaina Jenkins. So there was a personal connection there, which made it even more shocking.
Lloyd's body was found near Hernandez's house in North Attleboro, Massachusetts. Multiple gunshot wounds.
And this time, the investigation moved fast. Hernandez was arrested and charged with first-degree murder on June 26, 2013.
And the Patriots' reaction? Instantaneous.
Completely. Cut him loose about 90 minutes after the charges were announced. Voided millions in future salary. Massive salary cap hit for them, but they clearly wanted nothing more to do with him. Endorsements gone, jerseys pulled from shelves, total and complete severance.
The trial for Lloyd's murder concluded in April 2015.
Guilty. First-degree murder. Automatic sentence. Life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Was there ever a clear motive established for killing Lloyd?
Not definitively proven in court, but the sources strongly suggest police heavily investigated the theory that Lloyd might have found out about Hernandez's bisexuality or perhaps knew about his involvement in the 2012 shootings. The idea was Hernandez feared being exposed either as gay, which would shatter his public image, or as involved in other crimes and killed Lloyd to silence him. It speaks again to that hidden life, the intense pressure, and the severely damaged impulse control.
So, Hernandez goes to prison for life. He ends up at Sousa Baranovsky, a maximum security facility. What was his time like there? Sources paint a weird picture.
Yeah, it's another one of those contradictions. On one hand, reports say he seemed strangely content at times, got heavily into religion, reading the Bible.
But the old problems were still there.
Absolutely. He suffered from bad migraines, memory problems, which, again, you can potentially link to the progressing CTE, and he was constantly getting disciplined. Dozens of times. Screaming, banging on his cell door, aggressive, erratic behavior.
And the drug use didn't stop.
Apparently not. Reports suggest he was using K2, that synthetic marijuana, which was common in the prison. And K2 is known for causing really severe side effects, including psychosis. Inmates apparently said he'd sometimes need medical help after smoking too much. So you've got the underlying brain damage, the stress of prison, plus psychoactive drugs. It's a volatile mix.
Then comes April 2017. He's acquitted of the 2012 double homicide. That must have been a huge moment psychologically.
You'd think so. Apparently, other inmates cheered when the news came through. It was this moment of legal victory, at least.
But just 5 days later.
5 days after the acquittal, on April 19, 2017, he was found dead in his cell, hanged himself.
And the scene itself had these really strange, almost ritualistic details.
Yeah, very unsettling. He jammed cardboard in the door track, covered the floor in shampoo to make it slippery if guards tried to enter, clearly planned, and then the markings. John 3.16, written in ink on his forehead.
A biblical verse about salvation, belief.
Right, and drawings on the walls in what looks like blood. An unfinished pyramid, the all-seeing eye symbol, the word Illuminati, apparently references to the nation of gods and Earth's teachings he'd been exploring.
It sounds like someone desperately trying to find meaning or control in the end.
Or maybe sending a message. There were also 3 handwritten notes found. One was to his fiancée, Cheyenne, and it reportedly included the line, "You're rich."
Which prosecutors believe tied into this old legal rule in Massachusetts.
Exactly. The doctrine of abatement ab initio. It's a bit obscure, but basically, in Massachusetts at the time, if someone died while their criminal conviction was still under appeal, which Hernandez's conviction for the Lloyd murder was, the conviction was automatically vacated. Wiped clean.
So, legally speaking, he would have died an innocent man.
Technically, yes, under that doctrine. And that's likely what the "You're rich" note referred to. Potential civil lawsuits against the Patriots or NFL might have been easier if he wasn't officially a convicted murderer.
But that didn't stick.
No. Prosecutors and the Lloyd family fought it hard, arguing it was unjust for someone to erase a conviction through suicide. And in March 2019, the highest court in Massachusetts agreed. They reinstated Hernandez's conviction and abolished the abatement ab initio doctrine altogether, calling it outdated.
So the conviction stands.
Yeah.
But the final piece of this puzzle, the thing that helps make sense of why any of this happened, came after his death, the brain study.
This is the crucial scientific finding. His family donated his brain to Boston University's CTE Center. The diagnosis came back. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE.
And not just CTE, but a severe case.
Astoundingly severe, stage 3 out of 4. Researchers called it the most severe case of CTE medically seen in someone his age. He was only 27.
Stage 3 at 27. That's typically seen in players decades older.
Yeah.
Right? His brain was deteriorating incredibly quickly. And the symptoms of stage 3 CTE, they match his behavior almost perfectly.
Exactly. Stage 3 involves significant damage to the frontal and temporal lobes, the parts controlling judgment, impulse control, aggression, paranoia, emotional regulation. Things like memory loss, explosive anger, impaired decision-making.
So the spilled drink leading to murder, shooting Bradley in the face, the extreme paranoia, the rages. The CTE provides a biological underpinning for that lack of control.
That's the strong implication from the medical experts. They said it's basically impossible to look at the severity of the damage in his brain and not conclude it had a profound effect on his behavior. The years of hits, starting likely in youth football, the documented concussions, it accumulated into this devastating neurological condition.
His lawyer even mentioned seeing it in moments of clarity mixed with huge, baffling gaps in judgment and memory. The family's lawsuit against the NFL and Patriots argued precisely that football caused the CTE and they failed to protect him.
It makes the Aaron Hernandez story this perfect storm, doesn't it? You've got the childhood trauma, the abuse, the identity struggles, the drug use, all converging with this severe physical brain disease that literally eroded his ability to think straight and control his actions. He was reaching the top of his profession while his brain was essentially failing him.
It's just such a stark duality. The incredible talent, the history-making player, and the violent, paranoid killer. The source material really drives home how intertwined the psychological and the neurological damage were.
Absolutely. And it leaves us, and you listening, with a really difficult question, doesn't it? Knowing what we know now about the severity of his CTE confirmed physical brain damage directly linked to symptoms like poor impulse control and aggression, should the legal system, or maybe even pro sports leagues, approach cases like this differently? How do we balance personal responsibility with the impact of demonstrable severe brain injury?
It really challenges how we think about culpability when the brain itself is compromised. A heavy question to ponder. Thank you for walking through this incredibly complex and disturbing set of sources with us today.